Good evening, everyone here and everyone watching us on YouTube. We're going to call the order of a regular meeting of the Board of Education agenda September 9, 2019. May I have a pledge of allegiance from Jesse Flores, Interim Director, Safety and Security, please. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Jesse. May I have a roll call, please?
Governing Board Member Garcia.
Here.
Governing Board Member De Leon.
Present.
Governing Board Member Hanson.
Here.
Governing Board Member Cuarenta.
Here.
And Governing Board Member Gomez.
Here. Now we'll go to the approved agenda for September 9, 2019. May I have approved the regular meeting agenda for September 2000, may I have a motion, rather, to approve the regular meeting agenda for September 9, 2019.
I'll move.
Sonia De Leon made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Vivian Hanson made the second. Any discussion? Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Motion passed to approve the agenda for September 9, 2019. Now we're going to approve special meeting minutes August 6, 2019. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting held on August 6, 2019?
I'll move.
That was Vivian Hanson made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Yesenia Cuarenta made the second. Any discussions, any questions? So none, all in favor? Aye. 5-0, motion passed to approval of special meeting minutes for August 6th. Now we're going to regular meeting minutes, August 12, 2019. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held on August 12, 2019?
I'll move.
That was Vivian Hanson made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
That was Linda Garcia made the second. Any questions, any comments? So none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0, regular meeting was approved. Now we'll go to reports. One, employee representatives reports on contractual issues and/or items of interest to bargaining unit members. Kim Goldford, is she here? Okay.
Good evening, President Gomez, School Board, Dr. Perez, Cabinet, and guests. Why are we here? Why are you here? A few months ago, I shared why I'm here. But over the last few board meetings, I'm wondering why you're here. I shared that I was here for students and I'm here for the teachers of this district. But the words I hear here is constituents. And I know that people that elect you are technically called constituents, but they voted for you so that you would work for the students, the children, the kids of our community. As I've been here listening to the rhetoric, then reviewing it online and looking it over in my notes, there's one topic that is missing, and that is to have anything to do with student achievement and student growth and education. And I hope that that's going to change soon. Then there's the public comment section that's really hurting my soul. The disrespect and the harsh tones are not true to the values that we hold here in Paramount. We respect one another. Even when we disagree, we respect each other. And that also goes for our classrooms and in our schools. And if you're watching online, I hope that you know that the people that are working in this district would never call students, peers, or stakeholders frauds, criminals, and trash. That vocabulary is absolutely unacceptable. These people that speak here are not from our district. They don't have children in our district. They don't work for our district. These people are here for political reasons. They have tried these tactics in other communities and they failed. They are here to cause chaos. They are here to pull resources from our kids, and they are attempting to politicize our community for their own good. They do not speak for the teachers in this district. And as president of TAP, I ask teachers, administrators, and classified staff to please remember why we're here. And I encourage you to come up and speak during the public hearing about why you're here. Share the stories that are happening in your schools. Maybe when these outsiders hear all the great things that are happening here, they will see why they are not welcome here. Thank you.
Is there a representative from CSEA?
Try to follow that. Good evening, Board President Gomez, members of the board, Superintendent Perez, faculty and staff. CSEA sunshined our proposal last week for our upcoming negotiations, and you think that would be what I'm here to speak about tonight. However, that's not the case. I'm up here, excuse me. I'm only an employee of this school district, but I live in the community, have children in Paramount School District. In the past 2 months, the hot topic questions that I've been asked is about the board meeting. Did you hear what they said? Did you hear this? Did you look at this? 1 hour, 40 minutes. I mean, it's constant. And it's not just employees. We're talking about teachers, people in the community, friends. They're like, hey, you work there, right? It's almost in disbelief. And I want to make sure that we focus back on students. I hear constituents. It's weird. It's like we had the same thing written here. The questions are about constituents instead of students, or about policy rather than education. And I'd like that focus to go back to that. There's a lot of positive energy in this school district, but you wouldn't tell that watching on YouTube. It's unbelievable to be. It's surprised that I have to sit here and talk about Board Member Hanson or Board Member Garcia and the 20 years experience that they have and what they've done for this community. We're still reaping the benefits of their foresight, of the actions that they made and took place in education, so that my children will have the best successful educational journey that they can have. And yet we're trashing them for being on the board for 15, 20 years. I don't understand it. CSEA fully supports all 5 of you board members. And we know as a team, we can get to where we want, which is the best, excellent education we can give these students. But it's got to be focused on that. As president of CSEA, I accept some responsibility as I'm here tonight speaking, even though I don't really like doing this. But President Gomez, we share some of the same responsibilities. At my meetings, I'm to conduct those meetings and keep it at a certain forum and keep everybody in line. That gavel is not just for show. We need you to strike that when people are off comment or out of topic. I expect for this podium not to be used to slander or to bash anybody personally. We can disagree. We all disagree. That's what we're here for, is to figure out what we agree on. But you're charged with keeping us in order, and I expect for you to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we're going to number 2, board members' reports of visits to schools, conference attended, and scheduled meetings. We'll go with Board Member Garcia.
Good evening. I want to say I attended the contract cities for the LA Sheriffs with some city officials. It was held in Arcadia at the Arboretorium. I also attended the new water well opening in Pico Rivera with a board member. I attended Lincoln School on the first day. I checked out the new water fountains. They're nice. And I went over to see the new drop-off for the parents. There were a few glitches, but hopefully it'll be taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Garcia. Now we'll go to Board Member De Leon.
Good evening. It's nice to have you all here. I can't express how thankful I am to be on the board and represent exactly my constituents. which are my community, which I meet bi-weekly, if not more than bi-weekly. And I know they're in the audience, and I know because of their work loads, they are watching us now, hopefully live. And I can't say any more than that I am truly representing what they want. And besides doing that, I went to Alondra Middle School. I also visited the adult school, which I went to see the adult transition program. And so I had a couple of ideas that I presented during the study session that we could do for our students. And yes, I'm here for my students. I'm here to make sure that the policies that have been outdated for now 30 years, that we update them. I said this in January, and so it is now September, and we have yet to meet. So we have to make sure that we are on top of things as far as laws. And I also have finished my 5th course in the governance course. And with that, I know that 65% of our time up here should be spent on talking about student and looking at student data. And that's something that not all of us agree on, because there's board members that say, oh, everything's going fine, when in fact there's not. And there are teachers that have come up here and expressed their concerns about students failing math. And it's not okay for a board member to say, oh, but you know, everyone is failing math. Well, I don't care about every other school. I care about Paramount. And we need to make sure that the programs we are saying, okay, we're going to vote on, that these programs are working, and that we check with our superintendent and say, what more can we do? What other programs are not working? Because we can't just have programs out there that are not working. So yes, I'm listening. I'm listening to a lot of staff members that are not here. It's school related. So sorry, but it's school related. This is all related on how we're going to move forward. And there's people that don't like change, but change is going to happen whether we like it or not, whether it's good or bad. Change always happens. So thank you for being here. And I know there's a lot of people, more than 5,000 people that are watching and have voted for me, and I will represent them at all costs. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member De Leon. Board Member Hansen.
Yes, good evening. I'm pleased to hear that the first day of school went well. It takes a lot of effort to make sure that all the students get into the proper classrooms and taken care of. I really appreciate all the hard work. I'm sorry. I'm pleased to hear that the first day of school went well. All the students were in their classrooms, and it takes a lot of work by staff to make this happen. Thank you very much. I know it's always hectic, but we appreciate all you do. I attended the monthly ad hoc meeting with Dr. Perez and Yesenia. We discussed the traffic issue at various schools, had a chance to observe the new drop-off lane at Lincoln, but see there are still issues at Paramount Park, West Campus, and Adult School. The district and the city are making some adjustments to the flow of traffic to provide ultimate safety of students. A special pickup spot is being provided for the YMCA bus for the after-school programs. We discussed the after-school STAR program. Enrollment is down, and they're going to look at marketing of the benefits of the program a little more aggressively. The city and the school district will be looking at the possibility of more lighting at campuses for evening events. And we may be partnering on an event in November to recognize and educate during National Stand Up to Bully Day. More information to come. I'm looking forward to visiting back to school nights at the elementaries this week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Hansen. Next is Board Member Cuarenta.
Yes, on August 29th, I had the opportunity and the privilege to visit Captain Raymond Collins School. It was an honor to see instructors instructing students learning, focusing on the positive. And I also got to attend the Water Replenishment District event with Board Member Garcia, the new facility in Pico Rivera. It was an honor to attend the ad hoc meeting. As you guys can tell, we are working with the city to ensure that our students are not only learning, but that they're prepared to be successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Cuarenta. And now it's my turn. I actually this weekend attended the 2 out of the 5 Master in Governance courses. You actually take 5 courses and then you graduate being the Master of Governance. And it is true what Board Member De Leon said. In the second course, they taught us that 65% of what we're up here for is about students and the student data and programs that we should be helping the students. So hopefully we'll be able to do that in the long run. But right now, we're just working toward that. So, and I do recommend that all board members, no matter if all board members should attend this Master of Governance course, because you do learn a lot, and you do collaborate. You do network with other school districts that they might have a program that we don't have that sounds really great. I have a couple of them that I'm going to talk to Dr. Perez about that I really learned and I really liked it, but I do need a little bit more research on it. So you learn to collaborate and bring other programs here to our own district. So that's what I did. Thank you. So now we'll go to item number 3, Superintendent Report, reports on visits to schools, conferences attended, and legislation, meeting and/or activities scheduled throughout the district, recognition and accommodations.
Thank you, Madam President. First of all, I'd like to recognize that in the audience, we have a star among us, and she is our Teacher of the Year, Felicia Akpamoa. Would you please stand and be recognized? Felicia is a teacher at Paramount Park Middle School who has had Teachers of the Year for since I've been here as superintendent. So something's in the water over there. But Felicia, as I wrote in her letter of recommendation to the state and county, she is one of the reasons I remain as a superintendent, because she is very inspirational in the work that she does with students. And she is not just educating students, but she is truly transforming lives. And I would really recommend that everyone visit Felicia's classroom, because it is a remarkable place to visit. So thank you for being here tonight. I'm inspired. Board members, just to echo what one of our board members shared, we had a wonderful beginning of the school year. You worry about a lot of things as a superintendent when you open the new year. One is about losing kindergartners, the first day of school, and other things like air conditioning not working and things like that. But I have to say that in the 4 years I've been here, we have always had a smooth opening. And I know, and I did thank the city at the ad hoc meeting last week, because they work with us on traffic to make sure that our students are safe. And as you know, having over 19 sites, traffic is very much a challenge, and you don't want anybody to be hurt, which is why I send out a message to all parents. And I know parents, thank you for those listening that help us with the traffic situations outside our schools. But I do want to do a shout out for our maintenance and operations workers, because our schools are so clean all the time. You never find issues with regard to holes anywhere, or something being, or the lawns not being mowed, or classrooms not being prepared. We have wonderful employees in this district, and that is very evident. And I just want to do a shout out to them and thank them all, as well, of course, as our teachers and our administrators, everyone who participates in a successful beginning of the school year. This evening, board members, I have the pleasure to introduce to you a few members in the leadership team that you have approved. And when you approve them in closed session, you don't have the opportunity to meet them, but we'd like to bring them forward to you so that they could present themselves and they can bring their family members and also introduce themselves to you as well. And I'm happy to present 2 out of 3 individuals. One of them is ill and was not able to be here, Mr. Marvin Jacobo, who is the assistant principal at the high school. He is ill and will be here at the next meeting. He didn't make it to work today. But 2 of the 3 that you will meet this evening are our homegrown employees of the district that have been with our district for a long time. And I think, board members, this is truly a blessing for our district, because as you know, board members, you approve a lot of support for our teachers and employees to receive a lot of professional development that helps them to become stronger in their practice. And when we invest in our own, we love to see our own come up the ranks to become leaders in our district. And one of them is Rita Cruz, who is, you have approved for her to be the Program Director of Child Development Programs. Rita, would you come forward? And please share with the board what you did before the board promoted you to Program Director.
Well, I did start my career here in Paramount at Los Cerritos School as a kindergarten and first grade teacher. That's when we were all modified track and all that crazy multi-track, right? Year round. Then I had the opportunity to become a curriculum specialist, working with the new teachers in the district in their last phase of their credentialing process. And that program was called Teacher Induction Program. And I've been doing that for the past 17 years. So Board President Gomez, board members, Dr. Perez, Executive Cabinet, and guests. To be approved as the next Program Director for Child Development Programs is truly an honor and a privilege. I've had the opportunity to work alongside with a crew of amazing individuals, growing and striving to provide a safe and nurturing environment for our youngest learners in our Paramount community. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity to work with these young learners, and I hope to provide them with a great foundation to learn and grow as they move forward to become future scholars and leaders. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. Rita, do you have family members here?
I do.
Would you like to introduce them, please?
Absolutely. You know, family is extremely important. They are your backbone. Without their support and their love, it makes coming to work a lot difficult, right? So tonight I have with me my husband, Mike Wall, and my daughter, Tori Wall.
Thank you, Rita. Our next candidate, board members that you have approved to be a Dean of Students at the Paramount Adult School is Joseph Jackson. Come forward as I share a little bit about you. Joe is a part of our family here. He received his bachelor's in political science from USC, his master's in educational management from the University of Laverne, and he has worked in the district as a teacher since 1998. And a very special teacher because not only did he work at the elementary level at Lincoln and Alondra, but for the past 5 years, he's worked at BV at Buena Vista High School, which you know is our continuation high school, and it's working with students in credit recovery and independent study. So he knows about trying to build rapport with students and how important that is to their success in education. What really struck me about Joe is that when he interviewed, he said, this is the only position, we had a few leadership openings, but he said, this is the only one I'm interested in because this is working with the type of students that I feel that I'm called to do. And this is all he wanted. And he has worked with students that are struggling and likes to be a mentor to them. And he turned out to be the best candidate for the position of which you approved, board members. I introduce Mr. Joseph Jackson.
Thank you, Doctor. I too was a continuation high school graduate, so I've come full circle. Good evening, Board President Carmen Gomez, Vice President Yesenia Cuarenta, Board members Ms. De Leon, Ms. Hanson, and Ms. Garcia, Superintendent Dr. Perez, and the Executive Cabinet. I wish to express my sincere thanks and appreciation for your vote of confidence in appointing me as Dean of Students at Paramount Adult School, Paramount Adult Transition, and Community Day School. I have served the Paramount Unified School District for 22 years, and I am grateful for the opportunity to serve the community in a great capacity. In my first few weeks as Dean of Students, I am humbled to be a member of a school site that is so dedicated to enhancing the lives of our community members. I am honored and proud to have my family here tonight, and it is my intention to offer you my very best in this new role of Dean of Students at Paramount Adult School. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to introduce my wife, Nicole, and my 3 sons, Delisle, Jude, and Sullivan Jackson. Thank you.
And you know, there is always room for fresh new eyes and a fresh perspective on everything. It's wonderful to have a balance of that. And we met a lovely young lady who interviewed for the position of Dean of Students also at the high school. We have several deans at the high school because Paramount High School is the largest high school in the state. A lot of people are very surprised to hear that, with about 4,800 people, students at the school. And we met this young lady. Her name is Angelica Diaz. Angelica Diaz Perez, no relation. Angelica received her bachelor's degree in Spanish and Portuguese and Peace and Conflict Studies from the University of California, Berkeley, and her master's in counseling from the University of San Diego. And certainly the counseling heart came through in her interview and her care for students. Angelica was hired in 2011 as a guidance counselor in Bellflower, the Bellflower Unified School District. And in 2012, she worked as a student advisor at Opportunities for Learning Public Charter Schools. She then worked as a counselor at Green Dot Public Schools until 2014. And for the past 5 years, she has served as the academic and college counselor at Bishop Montgomery High School. She's known for her personal integrity, her work ethic, her capacity to connect with students. She is honest and candid while maintaining a tone of care and compassion, is what people said about her. So she is new to our family. Welcome, Angelica, and board members. I introduce to you the new Dean of Students at the high school, Angelica Diaz Perez.
Thank you, Dr. Perez. Good evening, Board President Gomez, board members, Superintendent Dr. Perez, Executive Cabinet, and audience. I would like to thank you for this wonderful opportunity to serve the students of Paramount High School as Dean of Students. In the past few weeks, I have had the opportunity to work very closely with our wonderful administrative team. I have also been able to get to know our students and collaborate with their parents and our teachers. And I am looking forward to this school year and continuing to serve our students, their families, and our community. And as we say at Paramount High School, once a pirate, always a pirate.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you have your family?
No, I have a 2-year-old. He's at home.
Okay. Understandable. Okay. All right. Thank you, board members. And we have 2 presentations this evening for you, board members. One is the Paramount Unified School District Safety and Security Framework, which we sent you information about under the Wednesday report last week. And our leadership team, all administrators, received training to introduce them to the new framework. We are asking you this evening, as part of the agenda, to adopt this framework. And Mr. Frutos is going to present it this evening for everyone to hear.
Thank you. Good evening, Board President Gomez, members of the board, Superintendent Perez, Executive Cabinet colleagues, and members of the public and visitors. One of the most difficult things to present to you is issues that deal with the safety of our students. As we come to you, we have evolved a lot in the last few years. So I wanted to first take the opportunity to tell you what we've done, where we're heading, and why we are asking that you adopt a framework for safety and security for the school district. As you know, it is now becoming commonplace to have very tragic events in public places. It is something that we pray and hope that never happens in our community, but as you know, is now part of the news. 3 years ago, when I first came on board, Dr. Perez mentioned that one of our priorities was the safety and security of our schools. And we started by doing several elements that have been very useful and now culminating with something that we think brings it all together. One of the first things we did was to improve the number of trainings and the type of training we were doing. The district has been diligent in doing trainings for earthquake preparedness and other things like that, but we have now incorporated active shooter training, which, again, it's sad, but needs to be done. The other piece that we did is we started looking at partnerships. It is one thing to do it all in-house, and we have good partners. We have SROs, we have our own CSPs, our own security team, but we wanted to look at other entities. And what we are bringing to you tonight is a group of 6 professional organizations that have put together a framework that we want the board to approve. Safety planning in today's schools is a prevalent problem. Implementing the framework, and I'm going to go very fast through some of this because I want to talk about the framework. The goal is to provide not only emergency training, but also the other component, the socio-emotional component, and one new component that many agencies had not thought about, which is what happens after a tragedy. And it's called a reunification model. And the idea is to bring that element to reunify families and to provide the crisis intervention and assistance that's necessary. We have great teams. When we've had incidents that are difficult, our school psychologists, our student services group all get together to provide services, and a lot of that falls under this plan. We have 3 out of 4 schools are somewhat prepared to handle a crisis, and only 52% of schools, and this is from a national poll, feel that they're ready to deal and respond to emergencies. So for our policy recommendation, there are 6 components that are very important. Allow for blended, flexible use of funding streams in education and mental health services. You're already doing that. We have the general fund, restricted funding, and insurance funds, all of which have contributed to our plans for safety. We get rebates every year because we've done a good job with insurance that we've used with our CSPs to improve the supplies that we have for safety and security at every school. Improve staffing ratios. You, the board, have approved that we increase the number of social workers that we have, counselors, psychologists, CSPs, and now SROs. So all that has happened in our district. Develop evidence-based standards for district-level policies. We have multi-agency partnerships and standards. And we don't try to invent everything. There are districts like San Bernardino, which is a large district that has had very serious tragedies, and they've developed systems that we have adopted. The same goes for our friends in Santa Ana Unified, who are one of the leading districts in a lot of emergency preparedness. We look at their information to try to incorporate into our systems. Fund continuous and sustainable crisis and emergency preparedness, response, recovery planning, etc. As I mentioned, we've been doing that for the last 3 years. The board authorized us to increase the number of drills. The superintendent directed that. We also brought door guards, these little devices that we installed in every door in the district. And as we mentioned to you before, we implemented a communication system that's small but very efficient. It even includes a satellite phone system. So in case of an emergency, even if all our communication systems go down, the superintendent would have the ability to communicate through a satellite system and through our different mediums. We have radios, we have cell phones, we have a brand new phone system. Thank you very much, board. An entirely new line of systems for our district. So we've been making improvements, and what we are bringing you now is the final component, which is the framework that ties it all. Provide incentives for intra and interagency collaboration. This is something that we do with other agencies. This year, we signed a renewal agreement for our SROs. It was with the county and took a lot of negotiation, but we finalized this to have 2 SROs in our district at all times, including some work that we can do after hours and on special occasions. For example, in our graduation, they have been such good partners that they increase their force to assist us, sometimes charged, sometimes uncharged, like at football games. Finally, the group ASKIP, which is our insurer, they have been a good partner. ASKIP has provided a lot of training for us, and they are the main entity that puts us in contact with other agencies that are in the forefront of safety and security. We also want to support multi-tier systems. Our social-emotional initiatives is something that we are now complementing to emergency preparedness. And as I mentioned, the district has done a good job by increasing the resources that we offer our schools. These are very fast. I wanted to just leave with the board some of our active shooter protocols we have for administrators, for a principal, for staff, for our campus personnel. And then we have created these charts that are going to go at every school that show that information so that it's very easy to remember. We want to make sure we make these systems as simple as possible so that in case of an emergency, people can react quickly.
May I ask a question?
Please,
Where would this chart be located?
in every classroom,
In every
in
classroom?
every office, yes.
Thank you.
The other thing we did this year is one of the most important things is how do we communicate out? So we created a system for 911 calling. In this district, if there's an emergency, every principal has been trained and every staff to immediately call 911. Why did I mention that we were thankful about the new phone system? Because our new phone system does three things that are very important. The moment we dial 911, it begins to dial our offices so that we can communicate with SROs, with the superintendent office and provide information, all automatic. And we created an additional system, so even if our phone systems are down and we communicate by cellular, we have a number that we can call to initiate an emergency response. And again, these are things that we're learning from other partners that we have already implemented. The same goes for a weapon on campus. We have a protocol now as to what to do, and we provide it to our staff. And the same for an active shooter, which again is something we hope we never have to put into practice in our district. Finally, how do you do all that with our students? 2 years ago, we found a group called I Love You Guys, and the story is very sad. A young lady at a university was in an active shooter situation. She kept texting to her parents, I love you guys. She was shot. The family started a foundation that provides free curriculum for students of different grade levels in order to find and understand 4 major components of an emergency so that are readily available. We are bringing that this year. We started the partnership last year. And again, is one more component of our emergency preparedness systems. And by the way, they are the one agency that also developed a reunification protocol, as I had mentioned before. So what are these organizations that we're talking about? One of the reasons why we're very proud is that they are national, and I wanted to mention to you who they are in the framework. It is the American School Counselor Association, the National Association of School Resource Officers, the National Association of School Psychologists, the National Association of Elementary School Principals, the National Association of Secondary School Principals, and finally, the School Social Work Association of America. The framework that you have was developed by those 6 organizations. No cost, very much like the curriculum. So these are partners that are doing a lot of work that we can get and that we are now attached to them in partnership. And if the board approves the framework, it allows us to continue this work. The final thing I wanted to mention is some of these associations are beginning to talk about what do you do with social media? How do you do talking points with children? So some of these pieces of information will also go to parents so that the parents can have a good conversation with their children. And we are pleased that the National Association of School Psychologists is taking a lead on how to give tips to parents to communicate. So finally, what does this all mean for the district? You, the board, are the policy at the top. This is a diagram of our system for emergency preparedness. Policy means safe in school framework. That's where you are telling us this is the umbrella package that will guide all the different things that we do every year. Our instructional team providing the curriculum, our safety teams protecting the schools, our facilities teams putting equipment and systems that assist with security. In the middle is emergency preparedness. All the drills, all the things that we do are communication systems. To the left, you see students and staff and the standard response protocol. That's the training we are providing and beginning to introduce in our schools. And finally, on the right, district and partners. These are the different entities that are willing to work with us. That whether it's LA County that provides SROs or the city that works with us to connect their control systems with ours. And together makes the district's emergency preparedness system. Social media, the type is very, very small, but I wanted to tell you that these organizations are also telling us, what do you do? We all used to think that social media meant we talk to the social media. What we're learning now is in the middle of every incident, before any of us can talk, the communication is already taking place. And how do we deal with it? And finally, what are guidelines? We don't just talk about certain emergencies, we talk about all emergencies. The district has been very proactive in providing information to all our employees regarding climate situations. When we have a very hot day, we have sent informationals. When we have smoke, we've had fires where we send informationals. Air quality advisories. We continue to do earthquake drills. Hot weather guidelines were just provided recently for the summer, and obviously continue doing our safety drills. The last partner that we have was a little bit of a surprise to us, but the Department of Justice created a very strong document for violence prevention in schools. The most important aspect of it is that it deals a lot with the role of an SRO in a school. People used to be very hesitant. Why would police officers work in schools? It's a different dynamic. And the Department of Justice did a very good job saying these are elements that they can bring as long as we all work together, and they have very good guidelines that we intend to share with our SROs, but also continue to get from the Department of Justice, who again did a very good job for enforcement partnerships. Finally, we have a map. This is a map of all the places where I Love You guys have implemented the standard response protocol. It's just for your information, and you'll see us roll that this year as we get the information from the organization. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
I just want to state something that this past earthquake we had, I had my little ones at home. We were baking, and they immediately ran together and got under the table. And when they got out, they said, "We knew exactly what to do, Grandma, because they taught us in school."
Yeah, I had a comment. I've been through a couple of these emergencies in the school district over the past years. And one of the things that I found was very difficult where parents don't know what's going on when a school's been locked down. And of course, as soon as they hear about it on social media or whatever, they come rushing to school. So I'm wondering what it is that we're going to do to make sure that we let parents know that there's a lockdown. And in the past, people come rushing over to the school, and they get themselves in trouble because they're trying to get onto a campus that the police have shut down. And they also block traffic. And so I'm just wondering, are we going to provide some parent training so that parents can understand what our responsibilities are and what their responsibilities are? And are we going to set up some kind of a communication with parents?
So the first part of what you mentioned is what has happened before is absolutely true. As a matter of fact, in the last couple of years, we've had a couple of emergencies where parents have driven for far distances only to find that they cannot enter one of our schools.
Yeah.
If you notice, one of the things we've emphasized is communication, not only electronic communication, but communication systems. Informing our parents is part of our protocols that we want to implement. And it's also part of the technology that we're bringing forward, because we could try to communicate with our parents, but if we don't have the technology to do it, we're still just talking. So we want to make sure that all that comes into play. Every year we've been improving our communication systems. When we talk to principals, I'll give you an example. We had a situation at one of our schools recently. Within, I would say, an hour, the principal had sent a message to all the parents. And the challenge for us is just to make sure that all the parents receive it, because sometimes we send it, but they have a different form of communication. So those are things that we will continue to work on. The traffic issue is a huge issue in our district. As you know, not only are we trying to do some traffic mitigation, but when we've had emergencies, several of our schools are very condensed, and the traffic continues to be an issue that we'll try to address. But if a few parents show up at some of our schools, it'll block traffic. So that's part of what we need to, why we want to make sure that this is a live document and we continue working.
So as we do, as we reach out to parents at schools, we can provide that information. I was looking on the internet over the last week or so, just looking at different information. And FEMA has a lot of free training that they will come out and work with parents and students. Another thing that came up in one of the sessions that I was looking at is there's a group called Safe and Sound Schools Clubs, where students, because many times I hear from students, I'm scared and I don't, we had a lockdown drill, but what happens if this is real? And many of the schools across the nation, particularly Sandy Hook, which is where this started, kids are developing clubs on campus so that they could be part of talking about safety issues. I'm just wondering if this is something that we could look into adding. I'll give you the name of what it is, and you could look at it and see what.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Hanson.
That was really great ideas, Board Member Hanson. I was basically asking the same question: how are parents informed regarding the procedures, and finding those ways to inform them, and not waiting till after the aftermath, and then perhaps when something, hopefully, God forbid, that happens, there is a point person that can direct people to a particular website or something that they would show. I don't know. I'm just thinking right now out loud. I was thinking also, because we know we want to have a plan, which is great, but we also want to talk about prevention. How are we preventing? How are we identifying students that have the potential to bring a gun? How do we, how do we prepare teachers to look at, there's a particular student, maybe they're having behavior issues. Are we addressing them? Are we sending them to the right people? Because in the past, we've seen the students that have done shootings, there has been problems and nobody caught on. And we don't want to be understaffed. And we want to just be, I think the whole issue would be preventing, of course, informing the parents, and then the
Reunification.
Yes, oh my gosh, sorry, I had a long day. Okay, so how does that model after the tragedy, how does it work? Like, how are we addressing that issue? Because that's the new component. Are we training teachers? Are we going to get parents involved? Or do we have volunteers in the school that perhaps could involve? How do we incorporate and really disseminate the information to the parents? I know we have Facebook. Is that a way perhaps to get parents to be more informed? So those were my comments.
And I think we're talking about having meetings at schools, are we not?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought you said.
The district has been proactive in a couple of areas. You may recall that the district has the ability to disseminate messaging very, very quickly from the superintendent's office to all users, from every school to all users. The outgrowth of that will be the training, and as Ms. De Leon and Ms. Hanson mentioned, we are bringing this to the schools this year. So again, it's been an evolution. First, it was, let's make sure that we have those drills so that everybody knows what to do in an emergency. Then we went through the securing of our doors and developing communication systems. This now involves education. And the next will be coming to you regularly and bringing new ideas. What else can we add to our framework? Now we have an umbrella to make sure that we are safer, more secure, and better trained. So I appreciate that. These are all great ideas. We keep building every year.
I understand we have robocall to call the homes, but what about the parents who are working and something like this happens? Do we have a robocall to call their cell phones, not just the home, the cell phones that they're working at, to say, this is an emergency, this is what's going on, don't come to the school, it's locked down? I mean, because I know we do have robocall at homes, but can we reach the parent do we have an automatic system to go to the emergency lines?
So the system is based on a number. And for those people that have a landline at home, and that's the primary number that they provided, that's the number they get. For those of us that live on our cell phones, and that's the number we provide, that's the number we get. We are going to be looking at additional systems where maybe 2 or 3 will be able to cascade down. But we already technically have that. Whatever number people say that is my primary communication number, the information we send out goes to that.
Any other questions or comments?
No. Great work.
Thank you.
We are asking you to adopt it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
to go and come back or just stay?
The next presentation is provided by Mr. Frutos also, and it's something that we bring to the board as required, and it's on the budget, and it's the unaudited actuals. And one of the things that we have provided is also a subscript of a title for transparency purposes to understand what this is. An unaudited actual is the year-end closing information for last year. And board members, as you complete a cycle, you will note that every year, the school board, the district has an outside agency of auditors that come in to audit the district's finances. And what you will receive this evening as a presentation is what the auditors will also receive and audit for the district. Mr. Frutos.
Good evening again, and now I'm accompanied by our Director of Fiscal Services, Patricia Tu. Every year, as part of our budgeting cycle, we bring to you the culmination of a prior year. Call it the end of a story. We start the year in July, you adopt a budget, you allow us to bring you information, we start spending money, we start receiving money. A lot of people think we get all $200 million at once the first day of school. No, there's a report there called cash flows, where we get it throughout the year. And every month we have expenditures, we have costs, we have things that we know, things that are surprises. But at the end of the year, we bring to you our unaudited actuals. As Dr. Perez said, you can picture it as a snapshot of what happened throughout the year. And once it's closed, it means that Patricia's team also looked at all the costs, the books are closed, and we are ready to give it to the auditors for review. The last 2 years, we've been incredibly lucky with our audits. We had 1 year where there was only one finding, and last year, no findings, first time ever for our district. Don't expect that all the time, please. It's rare. But what we do have is a great report. Once again, the district's fiscal team did a very good job bringing a lot of information, and we wanted to first show you what happens in a year. So in January, the governor introduces a budget. That's simply a document of expectations. In May, we updated with something called the May revise. We all know that what it means is the first few months of the year have happened, economic conditions are more solid, the governor creates expectations, but it stops there. If you look at the line of our chart, it doesn't go to state budget, it drops down to the PUSD adoption, because the state has no regulatory obligation to adopt a budget by July. They can be late. We can't. You, the board, has to adopt a budget by the end of June. So then when we start July 1st, we have to have a budget. So sometimes we are still working on projections from the state. Come December, we do the first interim. In March, we do the second interim. Picture them as quarterly reports. Then in June, we look at the LCAP, which is a component of our budget, and budget adoption. You once again adopt. Come September, which is now, we are looking at the unaudited actuals, which again is all the information from the prior year. It's a statement of the financial activities that have not been audited, and is here to inform you of what happened all the way up to year-end closing. So we are, again, under unaudited actuals. We can tell you that we did a great job last year projecting our expenditures. Our expenditures, we projected, these are the numbers of what we estimated months ago. We estimated that we were going to spend $194 million, $412,048. As you will see on the next chart, we did a really good job with expenditures. We spent $194 million, I think it's $600,000. With the revenues, we did close to good. We expected to get $198 million. You may remember that up until last year, the governor was giving us one-time money. We never knew how much they were going to give us, but we knew that at the end of the budget cycle, there would be some one-time money. We expected to get close to $4 million. We ended up getting more. So you will see on the next slide that we didn't get $198 million. We got $200 million, which is great. We rather err on that side, on the revenue side of the house. We rather under project and get a little more money. But what you see is for the first time since last year, we told you we're going to begin to deficit spend. We thought that because we were going to get $198 million, we predicted $194 in expenditures plus $7 million that we contribute to other programs. We were going to come to you with a $2.8 million deficit. That's serious, but it's still manageable because we have over $50 million in reserves. As we looked at this year, if you look, this is the reality of what the final is. We didn't get $198 million. We got $200 million. Guess where those $2 million went? Instead of a deficit of almost $3 million, we have a deficit of $1 million. So technically, our expenditure projections were correct, 194 million. We should have had a larger deficit, but because the governor did give us a little more money, our deficit was lower. What is important is that we have a deficit. We have a deficit of about $1 million. What are some of the issues that are bringing that forward? You will see in another slide that our loss in enrollment continues to be serious. We're going to show you what we're seeing. And obviously, the management of our expenditures is now very, very important because with the losses in revenues, the losses of the governor not giving us one-time money, Newsom's philosophy is different than Brown's. We need to manage our expenditures a little bit better. And that, I think, is the biggest learning point in the unaudited actuals, that the district is in a new place, the economy is a little more mature. We're not saying that we need to start cutting, but we are saying that we need to manage our expenditures better. This is a complicated chart, but it really is not that complicated. What it is, it tells a picture of what our enrollment has been for many years. Started in 15, 16, the first yellow. We lost about 134 students. Not too bad, very manageable. The next year, we lost 142. Then we lost 192. This last year, we lost 338 students. That is troublesome because it creates a little bit of an issue for our revenues. We were projecting for this next year a loss of 335 and about 335 every year. Our challenge is that after the first 10 days of instruction, we did our initial count, and right now it looks like our loss is a little over 600. We're hoping that'll be recovered. We are really hoping that we are wrong. This is where it's really useful if the business office makes a mistake, that we don't lose that many students. But we wanted to share that with you because it means nothing until we get funded in P2. But if the numbers continue, that is troublesome for our budget. And it's something we're going to keep you updated. Losing 300 students was painful last year. Losing 600 this year would be very serious for our district's finances. The other elements in our budget are simply to look at the changes. What are they doing? We know that over 2 years, if we lose those 600 students, it can be serious. And one of the things that we've been working with the superintendent as HR is the adjustment of positions from a prior year to a current year to adjust for the lesser number of students. We're actively looking at working on that. And right now it looks like we will have a reduction in the number of positions, which is necessary for us to balance our budget. Financial status of the district, I'm going to turn it over to Patricia.
So in closing 2018-19, the district does maintain positive balances, and we plan to continue sustaining a healthy cash flow. The district, as we've noted before, will continue to examine the allocation of LCAP funds and to ensure that supplemental concentration funds are allocated as part of the plan to continue to provide services to our unduplicated pupil population. The district will continue to evaluate the encroachment on the general fund. And as LACO, the Los Angeles County Office of Education, recommends that spending remain conservative due to unknown economic factors, we'll also continue to budget likewise. So for 2018-19, the combined general fund revenues, as Ruben said, was $200.7 million. The district in unrestricted revenues alone, unrestricted revenues received $179 million. And you can see the breakdown of all revenues in the pie chart over there. The LCFF base accounted for 85% of our district's revenues. The district incurred $25.3 million in encroachment to cover other district programs that are not fully funded. And what that means is, although programs like special ed receive grant funding from the state, it's not enough to balance the budget as far as the amount of expenditures that occur. So the district has to provide 18.1 as listed, the $18.1 million to sustain the special education activity. Routine restricted maintenance is also one of those programs where Although the district doesn't receive special funds for it, the district is regulated by the state to spend a certain amount of their annual budget on maintenance expenditures. Also, the STAR program as listed, and then other funds that have also deficit spent for this year is on the Child Nutrition Fund and the Adult Ed Fund. So those were things that are on the horizon that the district will continue to monitor. So on the other side of it, combined general fund expenditures, the district spent $194.6 million, and the breakdown is listed in the pie chart to the right. 79% for personnel costs, books and supplies at 4%, services at 11%, and the rest dispersed around there. So for the components of the ending fund balance, we do have 52 million in our fund balance reserves. That 52 million is comprised of the items listed here: revolving cash, stores, items for deferred maintenance and LCAP retention, statutory costs, because we have PERS and STIRS increasing, and reserve for economic uncertainties at 14.5. Just in case anything were to happen, we have enough reserves to carry us through until we can plan for any type of adjustments that are needed.
One of the reminders we wanted to bring to the board is that by law, we have to have 3% of the districts in reserves. So if you picture $200 million, for every $100 million, $3 million, 200 is $6 million. You might ask, how come we have 14.5 million? The board several years ago created a process for having 1 month worth of expenditures in reserve. It's more than the state mandated budget, but it literally is 1 month worth of expenditures nowadays. It includes salaries and some of the other things that we need to pay every month. So although it's a good reserve, we continue to be concerned that if something went wrong and we had a deferral, that's what the district has for reserves. And remember, all this is one-time money. It's not being replenished by added money from the state. So again, we're in a good financial position. We are deficit spending. We have had a very conservative approach to budgeting, but to our surprise, our expenditure forecast was spot on. Although conservative, that's a little difficult for us to see. There's really no wiggle room. So this year, we're going to look at our expenditures a little more closely. And finally, what happens next? You saw the calendar. What will happen now is if the board adopts our unaudited actuals, we already know, by now the board knows that we work with LACO in advance. Some districts wait until later to submit. We start working with them way in advance. So we know they're going to approve our actuals and give us a full certification. That means that at that point, we turn it over to the auditors. They spend several weeks with the district doing the audit, and we're hoping to bring you a stellar audit report. And we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Explain, please, what program maintenance means.
Sure. So we have a variety of programs in our district that have a cost that sometimes is not part of our regular budgeting. And the reason being is that there might be an increase. So let's say, for example, that we have to bring an additional staff to do a service. That will maintain a program, but it's nowhere else in the budget. And over the last few years, we've been spending several $1 million on doing this. One example is in our emergency preparedness presentation, we mentioned that we bought equipment, that we have increased some of our staff for some of the social components in the district. We bring the program maintenance to allow us to do that. Otherwise, we would have to take it from somebody's budget.
Okay, thank you.
I do have 2 questions,
Please.
Mr. Frutos. One is, how can the district stabilize the encroachment over time?
Well, since we have multiple encroachments, that's probably one of the most difficult questions and good question to ask. We believe that special education is something that we need to continue looking at. We have a new director that's doing a good job looking at it. We want to look more closely at the expenditures. As you know, special ed is highly legal. If an IEP drives a service, that service needs to be done, but there are several components that we are looking at. Adult Ed is another program, and although their encroachment is small, there was a reserve system that was helping them. As that dwindles, we are going to be working with them to see if there are other sources of funding to reduce the encroachment. With nutrition services, that's a more difficult item. The board remembers that last year we went to something called a provision to provide free food to all our students, breakfast and lunch. And when we went to the CEP program, two things happened. From the beginning, we knew that that was going to reduce our funding a little bit. So this is year one of implementation. We were prepared for it, but as we go into next year, if the encroachment continues, one, we want to come back to you and tell you this is what the program is doing. Should we continue with this free provision to everyone, or do we look at it differently? We want to give it a year or two. We believe it'll stabilize, but we're looking at every one of them because they're all impacting our general fund. Obviously, one of our main goals this year is to spend the most restricted dollars first. We say that always, and as Dr. Perez knows, we have a conservative approach to budgeting, but now it's more important that we look at our expenditures, because what we don't want is with the reduced number of students, if that materializes, that suddenly we found ourselves in a very strong deficit. That would be a problem.
The policy level. Excuse me, at the policy level, I would also like to continue to encourage our board members to continue to advocate for these areas, especially special education, because by the federal government, we are only funded 40% of what we are actually entitled to be funded on special ed. So therefore, every district has a huge encroachment depending on the number of special education students that it serves. But your work lobbying on our behalf, and I know that board member from Downey, DePlante, is advocating for full and fair funding of schools. That's a position that CSBA has chosen to advocate for. So your efforts in that area would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
And may I add, the very same thing Dr. Perez said is that the California School Boards Association is telling not only the superintendents, but the governing boards or trustees to make sure we advocate. I just want to clarify, I know you mentioned that funding is for special education, it encroaches on the revenues. Ms. Tu, you said that it's state funded? I thought it was federally funded.
Special ed gets federal funding and state funding.
Okay, now it's my understanding, and clarify for me, that the federal is supposed to give us 40%, 40 cents per every dollar, but they give us 20 cents per every dollar. Is that correct, or am I? Okay.
It's something we can bring back.
We receive about 40% of what we're entitled to, that the federal government is supposed to give us on special education funding. And we can research that even further and happy to send that to the board.
Just so you know, when my director of fiscal says I'm not sure I like it, because she's very precise. So when we bring you the data, it'll be exact.
And then may I add, it says, you mentioned, Mr. Frutos, by law, 3% must be in reserved. Now, are there other districts that save more than what's required by law?
Absolutely. What we were doing recently, and just as an exercise, is to look at our neighboring districts to see what reserve levels they've had. And I can actually put it together and send it to the board. But a lot of districts, when we begin to get one-time money at the end of every year, build their reserves, understanding that the economy changes and matures as it's happening now. So we can give you a list of districts, and some are very, very high. We have a couple of neighboring districts that surpass our percentage, but there are others, as you know, around us that are struggling, that are not doing as well. So we'll be happy to send information.
That would be great, because I know that it's a concern that going through the governance trainings that the California School Boards Association is saying that we're looking ahead at very hard times financially.
Dr. Perez, I have one more question.
Please.
Mr. Frutos, is there a need for the district to reduce personnel?
Well, there's a need to adjust. I can tell you that we have a healthy staffing system in our district. There are elements that come to the district on an annual basis that are, well, without sounding disrespectful, that wouldn't be difficult for the district to phase out, folks that come in on temporary basis. I can tell you that if we were to lose 600 students this year, plus the 339 students we lost last year, that's 1,000 students. That would require some significant analysis from us, and that's why we're doing it in advance. And what we hope is that the natural attrition that the district had would be sufficient to work with that. Now, the reserves help, because if we didn't want to deplete our population, you can use reserves to slow down the process, but it becomes complicated. A huge loss of students makes the protection of program very difficult. And that's our goal.
Are we looking at reasons why we are declining? I know that parents are not having as many children. That's number one. But I know students are leaving our district for different reasons. Are we looking into those reasons why they're leaving our district?
So I can tell you that yes, and obviously every department looks at it from a different perspective. From a demographic perspective, we're in a built-out community where every year we look at the number of building permits, which would be an indicator of additional families moving into the community. And in our community, it's very small. We seem to have a stable population that doesn't move out. It sounds wonderful from a civic perspective, not necessarily great from a district population perspective. The other piece is where we are losing students. One of the reasons why you saw those gigantic charts is that the natural loss would be always at K coming in, but we seem to have some fluctuations. So those are all things we're going to be analyzing this year and bringing information. The most important thing for us is to make sure that we continue to have programs that keep our population from paramount in our programs. And we do have competitive programs.
I would also like to add that, because I know executive staff has researched this in the past, that almost the same amount of students that we lose to other districts, the same amount we receive from other districts. It's very interesting when we look, because of course we have a record of our inter-district transfers in and out, because we have to approve those, and it's the same amount for some reason. It's very unique. The same, we lose X, we get X back. But overall, the issue of declining enrollment is something that just so for our information, every district is going through that every year and has been for the last few years. And a great reason for that, of course, is, as you mentioned, Mr. Frutos, we don't have as many people having babies that are coming into our kindergarten, and fourth and fifth grade is another area where we have a reduction in the amount of students every year. But it doesn't mean that we do not look at programs that might attract students from other districts, and that becomes very competitive, of course, but it is declining enrollment is an issue that I also sent the board a CSBA article about declining enrollment across the state that was published as well. It is a challenge for all of us, so ideas are always welcome.
Mr. Fructos, can you explain to me on page 6, the unaudited 2018-19, for instance, the 11th graders, and then more than likely they're the ones that move into the senior year this year, and your projected outcome is maybe like 50 students more. Where do those students come from? And how do you make that projection?
Well, in some cases, when you see the green column, it's actually not a projection, Ms. Garcia. It's actually the count on the 10th day. So
Okay.
right now, it's an actual. The light blue are projections that we did a few months ago, and we do it every year based on three things: what we call cohort survival. So if you have a second grade, moves into third grade, et cetera, et cetera. And then indicators, we have a demography company that gives us indicators in the community. There are building permits and other things that would increase our standard. But what you see in light blue is projected. Mm-hmm. What you see in yellow and pink is actual, meaning it already happened. And what you see in green is what we now have as day 10. So a new reality after 10 days.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
That concludes the superintendent's report. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to board meeting calendar. Any additions to or changes in the regular meeting and/or special meetings calendars will be discussed. Is that the one we're going to discuss about October?
Yes, Madam President, in the Wednesday report, I asked, and I think I sent a reminder today for the board to look at their calendars, to select a date for a board, superintendent, and staff retreat. The two dates that our facilitators are available are October 5th or October the 12th. Both days are on a Saturday, and generally the board meets from about 8:30 to 2.
So with that, I cannot make the October 12th, so I'm suggesting October 5th. Okay, so means we'll have to go back and look for other dates.
Okay, I'd be happy to do that and work with our facilitators. That will push our goal setting back to November or December, just as an FYI.
Hopefully November.
Yes. Unfortunately, I had given him some September dates, but they are booked. They're booked by other boards, so.
Is this also where we do the October 3rd?
Yes.
Okay, so it's my understanding that October 3rd, there's a governance board policy and bylaw review. We need 2 board members to attend and the superintendent. I know that I had an interest by board member Hanson to participate. So my suggestion would be have a new board member attend and an old and a wait. I hold back.
Veteran.
Yes, I'm holding back. I didn't say
yes.
it. I didn't come out. So hold on. A veteran, if you want me to put it that way, an experienced one, and a new one. Unfortunately, I cannot make October 3rd. So if I understand that board member Hanson, so we'll take the veteran experienced board member Hanson can be on there. And I
have a question.
Yes.
I think it's a 3-day. I think it's 3 days.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes, ma'am. It is a 3-day training. Most of the work has to be conducted by staff, is what I was told by the CSBA facilitator. Day 1 and 2 will be in all the other sections of the board policy report that you received. Governance is a small section. That is the section that the superintendent and the board is involved in. And she said it would take 1 day.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, I can serve.
Okay, so with that, I would like to ask a board member, and do we have to take a vote?
You
Or
can
do we
ask for
just, okay.
volunteers.
So a volunteer from a new board member, either board member De Leon or board member Cuarenta.
First, I wanted to ask, because you're saying it's a 3-day?
1 day.
Oh, it's a 1 day, so it's just October the
October 3rd.
3rd. From what are the times?
She hasn't given a specific time, but she said all day. So I'm assuming it's, as soon as we can get it done.
What day of the week is that? I just want to
It's
make
a
sure.
Thursday, I believe.
Thank you.
Thursday.
Thursday.
I just want to make sure my calendar's right.
So any volunteers from either one of you?
You know me, I would love to volunteer, but unfortunately, I have already other arrangements.
Right.
So
Board member Cuarenta?
I will have to ask for permission at work, but I'd be up for it.
Okay, Linda?
No, I'm sorry. I can't make it on that day.
Okay.
it's okay to move forward with one board member
Right.
if the board is satisfied with that.
Well, I would move forward as of now with one board member. However, I would like to bring it back to see if board member Cuarenta can also join, since she says she would ask her employer.
Yes. Okay, and for clarification, Madam President, so you're saying if she is not available, though, is it okay to move forward? I'm sorry, if she is not available, that being Board Member Cuarenta, you are comfortable with at least one board member being part of this policy review with CSBA?
I would actually try to go back to my employer also. If Cuarenta cannot make it, go back to my employer and see if I can take the day off. So if neither one of us can make it, yes, you are correct.
Thank you.
Okay, any other dates that we need to, any other dates that we, nope, okay. So with that said, I'd like to make a motion that the retreat is going to be rescheduled for either November or December, and that the October 3rd Governance Board policy and bylaws would be on October 3rd. May I have a motion?
That's not a meeting, that's just
Oh,
some attending that.
sorry, there's just someone,
Yeah.
okay. So that's, okay. So now we're going to the hearing section. Oh, sorry. Oh, she said no. Oh. What are we voting on? She said no. Oh, are you bringing in? Okay, no? Okay.
We can do it now? Yes, you asked. Okay.
Okay, I move to reconsider the vote on a motion as to how agenda minutes will be recorded. I ask that it be placed on the October agenda.
I'll second that.
Board members, I'm sorry, board members, as I shared with President Gomez earlier, you don't need to take a vote on that. As part of the bylaws, any board member can request to put an item on the agenda. So
So that's all it takes then?
that's all it takes.
Then while we're at it, I have one too. We need to finish the evaluation and the contract for the superintendent. And I'm requesting that that be put back on the agenda for October closed session. And then on the November open session for a vote.
I agree.
Agree.
I have received that.
Alrighty. Any others? Okay, so none, we move forward. Hearing section. Persons wishing to address the board should fill out a blue card located on the table by the door and submit the card to the secretary. Speakers will be called in sequence during the hearing section, which is limited to 1 hour, and each speaker to one presentation of 3 minutes unless the board wishes to waive the time limit. The board cannot engage in public discussion during this portion of the agenda. Government Code Section 54950-54963. Staff will follow up and address public inquiries if contact information is provided. Those who have a group concern are encouraged to select a spokesperson to address the board. Persons wishing to address the board on a specific agenda item at the time of the item is under discussion are limited to 3 minutes each and will be called to speak following the staff comment and prior to the board's discussion and taking action. The president of the Board of Education, will read Code of Conduct to begin the hearing portion of this agenda. For members of the public, it is your right to participate in today's board meeting, and the board encourages such participation. However, the right of the public to address the board must be balanced with the need to ensure that public comment does not interfere with the orderly course of the board's business. All are reminded to abide by the following rules. Speakers must cease speaking immediately when their time is ended. Public comment on the agenda item must relate to the subject matter of that item. General public comment is limited to subject within the jurisdiction of the board, and the public comment does not include the right to engage in a dialogue with board members or staff. Please remain respectful of the forum, since we are an educational institution for children and young adults. We ask that speakers consider refraining from utterly writing or display profane, personal, threatening, derogatory, demeaning, and other abusive statement toward the board, any member, therefore, staff, or any other person. According to Government Code 54954.3, parentheses C, persons who desire to use the public comment period to make derogatory comments against an employee or member of the governing board enjoy no immunity from being sued for slander if the statements made are false and or damaging to reputation and spoken with malice. As for complaints against district employees, there are procedures for filing complaints, and such matters are heard in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, parentheses B, parentheses 1, and parentheses 2. If a member of the public wants a concern or a complaint against an employee considered and act upon, we suggest that the appropriate procedure be followed. Members of the audience should be respectful of all the views expressed by speakers, staff, and the board members, and may not clap, cheer, whistle, or otherwise disrupt the orderly conduct of the meeting. Any person engaging in conduct that disrupts the meeting is subject to being removed from the board meeting. Finally, if you witness conduct or behavior by other members of the public that disrupt your ability to remain engaged or participate in the meeting, please notify the board president and other district staff. Thank you. With that said, we have blue cards. So the first one will be Felicia, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, Kawuma, school climate.
Good afternoon, President Gomez, board members, Dr. Perez, the cabinet, and other guests. My name is Felicia Akwamwa, and I'm from Paramount Park Middle School. And I'm here to speak to you and share with you some of the positive and amazing things that are going on at Paramount Park. Go Panthers. Some of the great things that are going on there is that we've implemented school-wide AVID, and that's even in our SDC classes. And that's with Cabrera, Cowser, and Coco. We call them, they're AKA 3C, which their last names start with C, and they're just our power pack teachers who make sure that every classroom has some type of AVID strategy. So that's great. We also have cross-content collaboration. We have an award-winning math team led by Miss Yu, a sports team led by Lozano, Prepuk, and Zamora, and an award-winning band led by Cohane, our Check and Connect program by Miss Wendy Hunt. And our Check and Connect program is a program that we have where kids who are struggling on campus have a contact person. So that person monitors their grades and helps them keep track with behavior and make sure that they successfully complete the school year. The thing that I'm most passionate about is Panthers Academy, which is an intervention class that I teach there. And with Panthers Academy, we work with our most at potential students. I don't like using at risk because I'm there to make sure that whatever potential lies in them, we get to see it and it blossoms while they're there. In 53 minutes every day, I get to provide academic, social, and emotional support to these kids, and I help to navigate them through middle school successfully. I mentioned all of the names with all of the different great things that we have going on because one of our focuses this year is building relationships. And those names are important because in all of us taking the effort to make sure that the kids are successful in each one of the programs, we've also made sure that we've created a family amongst ourselves. And that impact this year has been stupendous. And what I mean by that is you can see the effects of us becoming family as a staff and as a school, whether it is through our SDC kids using AVID strategies, or whether it's our coaches who are collaborating with our teachers to make sure that our athletes are well in the classroom as well as on the basketball courts or on the fields. And even you may catch the coolest kid at lunch sitting with the most shy kid, and it was by choice. And you may even see Mr. Longworth with a broom helping Mr. Rial sweep up the lunch area and kids voluntarily helping him. I really have enjoyed being back in the district. Sorry, that's my time. But I would like to fold out my sign here.
Sure.
If you're looking for some positivity in Paramount, follow us on Twitter. If you need just a boost of positivity, and that's all of you, we're doing great things over there. Thank you.
Thank you, Felicia. Now we'll go to Marcelina Bridges. She has general.
Good evening. Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Perez, and Executive Cabinet. My name is Marcelina Bridges, and as a lifelong resident, I would like to address the board for several reasons. In 1987, 1,200 freshman students in Paramount High had an assembly, and they told students, everyone look to your left and look to your right. Only one of you is going to graduate. In 1991, roughly 400 students graduated. 1991. Ms. Hansen was elected in 1990, and the graduation rate today is 92%. There's something to say about experience. In kindergarten, one of the first lessons we learned is to be respectful to one another, and name-calling and bullying is unacceptable. Renowned author Brené Brown once said, "When I look at narcissism through the vulnerability lens, I see the shame-based fear of being ordinary. I see fear of never being able to be extraordinary enough to be noticed, to be loved, to belong, or to cultivate a sense of purpose. When this happens, I believe it's happening here in this room. There is an obvious abuse of power, stagnant growth, and in the end, nobody wins. As elected board members, it is your responsibility to use your platform for the highest good. For our children, for our teachers, and for our future. I don't see this currently happening. And as a parent of 3 children, 2 currently in school in the district, and another who will be directly affected by the decisions you are making today, I am terrified. Prior to this current elected board, there were moves made that had me hopeful for the successes of my children, and I was excited for my children's future and the education in this district. Now, I could see the board that they cared about my children, they cared about me as a parent. Now, frankly, I'd like to know, what is your purpose? Why are you here? And is it for your own political gain? I'd like to discuss the term I've heard way too much online at the board meetings and in person, constituent, as defined by the English dictionary as a member of an electoral voting member of a constituency. An example of this is politicians have a responsibility to listen to the concerns of their constituents. As has been so quoted on multiple occasions, these constituents continue to speak out and protest at these meetings. However, I do not believe these members are your constituents. These people actually have their own personal political agenda, and I don't want it in Paramount. I'm sorry. They have no voting rights within the district limits. They have, however, seem to have similar values of some of the members on the board. Making these deals like this is unacceptable and will not be taken lightly by the members of this community. It's time for us to stand up. People of Paramount.
Thank you. Next is Gerald Cerda, School Matters.
Good evening, President, board members, and superintendent audience. I came up here with some stuff. I wrote some stuff, but then I've been hearing some of the presentations. And Mr. Fruto's presentations are always very informative, which gets discussion going. And they bring a lot of questions to our mind, especially the topic of safety. Safety is very important to all the student staff, but also the concerns from parents. We did have some training for active shooter some time ago, which the public was invited, but then told not to come in. So I'm still waiting for an invitation for more active shooting. I know Mr. Frutos mentioned about more concerns, more public meetings. So that would be nice. We haven't heard anything with the school district regarding the metro. The Metro Line's having a meeting tonight at the same time as the school board meeting, and they're thinking of doing a tunnel to connect the West Campus to the high school. I think the tunnel is not the best idea. I think the bridge over, which is visible and provides more safety, is better than a tunnel. We don't know if there's going to be rodents, flooding, displaced folks in those tunnels. So that's a concern for safety. And parents need to know about that. Regarding safety, we had a student that jumped off the awning roof. And I would like to know what has been done at that school campus to avoid students from climbing or having access to the roof and jumping off the roof. So I would like to know that what has been done in that campus for safety, or in all campuses for safety. I also want to request more time. We did have 2 meetings prior, now we only have 1 meeting. And I would like to request the time from 3 minutes to 5 minutes. Also, if there's time to get involved with the discussions for some of the questions after the presentations, if the public can also have another 3 to 5 minutes to have questions, that would be appreciated. Since we eliminated 1 school board meeting that we had 2, now we only have 1. So I would like to have more time to have more discussions, more questions. And it is good to have TAP and CSC presentation here today. And good job. Keep it up. Keep coming to the meetings and keep being participants. I have not received, here's another question. I have not received any responses from the Paramount Unified School District in regards to questions asked in the last 3 meetings. So I'm still waiting on those responses, even though it's mentioned on the speaker information form. And I would also like to, I would also like to thank everybody for tonight's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Andrea Guerrero, PHS Paramount High School Link Crew.
Hi, good evening, Board President Gomez, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Perez, Executive Cabinet, and guests. My name is Andrea Guerrero. I've been a resident of Paramount my entire life. I'm probably one of the reasons that our enrollment is low because I moved away for college, came back, and I haven't left. I love the city. I think we're going great places. My son is a Paramount Unified student as well. He is a Wirtz wizard, and I look forward to the day when he becomes a pirate like me and my family. Why am I here? I'm proud and honored to be here. I'd like to share some of the positive things that are going on in Paramount. I'm a world language teacher, and for the last 2 years, I've been teaching Link Crew Leadership. It's an amazing program that helps link seniors and juniors to our incoming freshmen, helping them find a place to be, giving them somewhere where they belong. It's all about kindness and inclusivity, which I know we talked about safety in our schools, and we asked about what can we do to be a little more preventative. I think reaching out to our students, finding those who have no one to eat lunch with, reaching out, making that contact, and I think that's all Link Crew Leadership is all about, and I'm really proud and passionate about it. I love it as much as I love my core subject, Spanish. So I just always like to think what's good, and I tell my son, and I'm like, let's focus on the good things, and I think sometimes that's what we need to do in the workplace. I know it can be hectic, and one of the biggest things about Link Crew is they always ask you, think of your purpose. Why are you there? Why are you doing that? And I always think about all the tragedies that happen. My family has been involved as well and affected by the Route 91 Harvest Festival. And I always just think if someone could reach out, make someone feel that connection, reach out to these students, be there. And I can't wait for my son to graduate from Paramount High School in a few years and for him to really find that community and feel at home. So thank you all very much. I love what we're doing in Paramount. So definitely sticking around. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have Misty Copeland, RSP teacher.
Hello, good evening, Board President, Dr. Perez, board members, Executive Cabinet. I'm an RSP teacher at Jackson Middle School, and it's been a privilege for me to work there as a teacher. I'm here just to share some of the good things that are happening, not only at our school, but I'm sure in our district. A tradition that we have as a Capturing Kids' Heart school is to share good things at the top of our class period. And since I've been at Jackson, we've implemented programs such as Capturing Kids' Hearts, restorative practices, breaking down the walls, and currently we've been allowed the opportunity to do advisory, which thank you, Dr. Perez, for supporting us in that. I have seen a huge shift in the culture at our campus. not only amongst teachers, but a tremendous change in our students. Me personally, as an RSP teacher, just being able to see the inclusivity of our special education students and the relationship building that has come with the programs we've implemented has been huge. I've seen a decrease in student behaviors. I have seen an increase in the capability our students have to deal with conflict. I've seen academic progress. I have seen the teachers and our school community come together in a way that the students have been able to look at and model, because as teachers, we're working together and they see our relationships and build off of that. I know every district has its challenges, but I know if good things are happening at Jackson and at Paramount Park and at other schools within our district, it's happening across the board. Teachers are helping to change lives, and our students are seeing our examples, and they are growing exponentially from that. So I appreciate you all support in helping bring those programs to our school and supporting us in helping our students grow and develop into the scholars that we want them to be, not only at our schools, but in life. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person is Adrian Alvarez, term limits.
Just to clarify the policy, can we clap or not clap?
You're not supposed to clap.
Oh, okay. I don't even know where to begin. There's so many things that are being said that just so confusing. I am an outsider. Like most people, like the film writers, Martin Luther King, a lot of our heroes that changed, voting rights, segregation laws, people that fight immigration, we're outsiders. I don't live in Paramount, but I will. I will because I chose to organize here for the last 5 years around the issue of the chromium-6 in the air, which doesn't care about your politics and doesn't care about your class status. So I spend most of my time here organizing. So that's why legally I can speak here, because we organize and I do work here and I do intend to live here just to calm some of the fears. But shouldn't be so paranoid about outsiders. It doesn't make sense to claim that people have political agendas when you're calling for term limits. I mean, it would be a pretty stupid politician to call for term limits. You'd be cutting your own neck. Precisely what you're calling for term limits is to stop the possibility of corruption, which if you read the papers around the adjacent and neighboring districts, it's going on. It's not something that's been made up. I worked as a public information officer for a school district, for Lennox. Read it in the paper. They talk good about teachers, they talk good about being family, but the budget, the actual doing, it's quite different. So another thing is that there's a big difference between policy and law, school board policies and the Constitution. Read the recent papers. Nobody can curb freedom of speech. You can, there's laws against slander and they're existing. So we need term limits so that the community that leads because they got to work and it's a sacrifice to be here. And the only way these things change is by changing members of the school board. It's not a secret. So the good news is that people did organize, people did mobilize, and there was change, and there's more change to come. It's not a secret. We are fighting for change. But white privilege and politically entrenched politicians are very nostalgic for a great past, like the good old days. Everything was great in the good old days. I don't know, we don't agree on those things, but it's not a question of being polite, not polite. We need term limits to fight corruption so that the children have higher quality education.
Thank you, Adrian.
Can I address?
Next speaker will be Reno Redula, and he has general.
Good evening to everyone. Speaking of safety and security, for all you know, hexavalent chromium 6 is a chemical compound during a state of oxidation, along with chromium trioxide and salts of chromate and dichromate, and therefore all proven harm, fall, and deadly into our body systems, especially the children and elderly, where their immune systems are very weak and therefore susceptible to cancer. These deadly cancer-causing chromium 6 are formed when performing hot work, such as welding on stainless steel or melting chromium metal. Thus convert into a hexavalent state. And take note, it can also be mixed in drinking water systems. This deadly cancer-causing chromium 6 here in Paramount is bombarding us each day, and we inhale this every day, and due to exposure in this cancer-causing chromium 6, therefore exposing us, the Paramount residents, the children, and the elderly, increased risk of developing mainly, lung cancer and asthma, and do damage us. These polluters that surround us, such as carbon for years, emitting deadly chromium 6 for profits at the expense of us powerless and poor Paramount residents. We brought and elected these long-time serving old politicians for decades for a single main purpose, to protect us Paramount residents from harm. But look what is happening until now. They are more concerned and obliged to protect these polluters of some reasons, and therefore, but us all are helpless and powerless, and risking all our lives into cancer exposure. And the truth of the matter is that some have died of cancer here in Paramount. Are we all in the state of something like accident to happen, waiting, like accident to happen? To me, no, and never. All of us will unite, speak out, and helping one another to combat this deadly chromium 6 by holding these Paramount politicians accountable for all the harm that these polluters are inflicting us maliciously. According to a report, Lincoln School is using a Sperdise filter system number 10, but in reality, it's filter system number 8. And how true is this? Either way, based on our research, it's either not fit to filter chromium 6, and that could jeopardize our children's health. I recommend the MERV 16 vessel filter that could end up cleansing this deadly hexavalent toxin away from health risk of our dear children. We must protect them from harm, and it is your job, board members, to enforce it. Secondly, Paramount folks want to know how all you decided to keep Dr. Perez as our superintendent. And lastly, about this subject, draft of zone project, the board policy issue 315.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you to all the guest speakers. Now, before going on to the consent items, we did mention, Board Member Hansen brought up a good idea last month, our last meeting, that we should answer these questions, the questions that are asked here on the board, so that everyone could know the answer, because usually we send the correspondence to the person asking the question. So question raised on June 10th, 2019, and also on July 8th, 2019, of the board is, why is the district often buying sparklets water at the district office when our children drinking from old pipes? Do teachers have to buy their own water? The answer would be, all sparklet waters is purchased by employees with their own money, no district funds, except for human resources, who use it in the past for interviews and visitors. As a small water bottle, 8 ounce or so, are perceived as more sanitary and can be provided to visitors. The district will move towards using water bottles for human resources. Due to the lack of available drinking water in the offices, employees are allowed to continue buying Sparklet's water bottles and Spencer's with their own funds. As the district finalizes the installation of the water dispensers in schools, the district has planned for a similar installation of the district office to provide access to drinking water for staff and visitors. Next question. Also, there was a question about flushing procedures and was used during the testing. What lab did the testing? Mr. Frutos answered this question on the July 8, 2019 board meeting. Here is a summary. Mr. Frutos stated that in the past there was a brief presentation provided related to water test. The district was mandated to do water lead testing. The district completed the testing in advance and worked with different water agencies to make sure that the district water was tested and the results were favorable within the guidelines that were provided. The district went one step above of what was required to be a little stricter with the testing and monitoring, just in case the standards were to change. As far as the water provision, we are improving the water provision of schools by providing water dispensers with the approval of the governing board. The district is looking into install this throughout all the schools so that the students have access. Our hope is that we have some installations to each of our schools by the end of the summer, unless there is some structural issue that we find at the school. Mr. Frutos informed the governing board and the public that in the presentation on water is on the district website. Here is a snapshot of the information, which is on the district website. Another question was, who does or did the inspection of electrical upgrade in Words and Gaines? Do we need DSA inspections for these projects? The answer would be the district contracts with a state-approved and licensed inspector to conduct state-mandated inspections of construction and infrastructure projects as required by the Division of State Architect, DSA, which is the agency that provides construction, modernization, and infrastructure regulations, as well as approved inspection companies. Although not required due to the scope, the district will finalize DSA inspections with Words and Gaines as a project is completed. Question number 2. Who does or did the soil testing for new construction in Zamboni? The district uses a certified firm, Glyton Group, Inc., to conduct the soil testing and geotechnical work mandated by the state and the DSA geotechnical assessment of soil conditions and related laboratory testing. Question 3. How are testing of lead in our water at schools? Paramount Unified School District worked in partnership with a various water district to finalize the water quality testing at all district school locations as defined in the Water Lead Regulation AB 746 by July 2019. The water testing results were reviewed with the water district and the results have been positive, with all district location meetings the required water quality standards. The laboratory that analyzed the test and provided the reports is a clinical laboratory of San Bernardino Incorporated, with laboratory analysts from the water districts reviewing the results prior to posting. Question number 3. Did Human Resources reach out to Mr. Smith about her concerns on seniority issues regarding working summer school and extra hours? Human Resources answer is Human Resources met with the employee to discuss her concerns. Question number 5. Do we have the Freedom of Information Act or request of public record request forms on the district website? The answer, there is no legal or specific district form. Rather, any note or letter requesting information is accepted as an official request. Question 6. What renewable energy information or curriculum do we have in place for our students? Answer. The board recently adopted a curriculum that is being piloted in the high school. Question 7. What steps has the district taken to address the issue of air quality? Answer. The district has taken a proactive approach of the various environmental issues that impact our district, currently being air quality, water testing, and mosquito abatement. The approach includes ongoing partnership with the regulatory agencies in charge of each environmental issue to understand the district's options, learn proactive responses, and provide timely information to the district community. Specifically to air quality has been the deployment of the AQMD, Air Quality Management District, equipment in district schools and the various cycles of testing as of August 2019, that the district has conducted for indoor air quality in partnership with the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health. The test outcomes have been favorable, with results inside the classroom normally below the limit of detection. Additionally, the district continues to participate in the community discussions on air quality, both in our area as well as in surrounding communities. Question 8. The sheet attached to the speaker's card is very restrictive. Why do we have to have it? Answer. The board wishes to provide guidance to speakers, and this contributes to an orderly meeting. Question number 9. Why do Our Lady of the Rosary using Franklin Covey for training? Answer. The Paramount Unified School District is a public school entity and is not associated with Our Lady of the Rosary, a religious organization. We are not aware or knowledgeable of their curriculum nor rationale for selection of training. Question number 10. Is Franklin Covey a Mormon teaching? Answer. Paramount Unified School District is not aware of Mormon teaching. Question number 11. Where is the separation of church and state? Answer. The federal government provides funds for students that qualify whether the student attends a public school or not. The funds follow the student. The Paramount Unified School District is required to provide a portion of the federal grant funds received by the district to private schools that serve students who qualify and live in Paramount. Question number 12. Is there lead or arsenic in the water children are drinking? Answer. The water purveyors for the district conduct testing based on state standards and produce water safety reports, water quality reports that are published in the municipality websites. The reports indicate that the water is safe for consumption. The district conducted a separate lead test to comply with state law. Question number 13. How is the board supporting immigrant families with ICE raids? How is the board protecting immigrant families with ICE raids? In 2017, the Board of Education passed a safe haven resolution committing to protect Paramount Unified School District students at all costs from any ICE raid. Immigration attorneys are invited to a workshop at the Paramount High School senior campus on a Saturday to assist families with questions about how to protect themselves from immigration authorities. Site administrators are trained annually on how to handle the presence of ICE on any campus in order to protect students. The Parent Annual Notification Manual was revised to include information to parents on how the district handles any request for juvenile information. Any ICE official would have to go through the courts and the superintendent before a child or information about the child is released. Question number 14. What has the board done by providing air filters? The district has had a long-standing practice for using higher quality air filters than required, and is currently finalizing the review of MERS 16 filter installations as well as implementing a grant process for filters in school district. Question number 15. What has the board done about the air quality issue? The board has directed district staff for years to be an active participant with environmental regulatory agencies in our area. The district has a long-standing partnership with the AQMD, which is a primary regulatory agency for air quality in Paramount. Question number 16. Has the board provided an update on the IQ presentation and Long Beach Port grant for MERS 16 filters? The district is finalizing the testing process and the grant process for MERS 16 filters and is planning to update at one of the upcoming board meetings. Question number 17. What kind of background checks are done on taxi drivers that transport students? Answer. All district-used taxi drivers are DOJ, Department of Justice, cleared through the live scan fingerprinting process and maintain all appropriate licenses for the service provided. Question number 18, are there cameras in the taxi cabs that transport students? Yes. Answer, yes. The cameras are in the interior facing passengers and on the exterior to facilitate any kind of accident investigation. So those were the questions and answers. So we will be having these every meeting. The questions for today will be read, the answers will be read on the next open meeting. Okay. All righty. With that said, we're going to go to consent items. Consent items. All these items are considered routine and may be enacted by a single motion. Any items needing discussion may be moved to the appropriate section of the agenda upon the request of any board member. May I have a motion to approve the consent items?
I'll move.
That was Vivian Hanson made the motion. Who?
I did. I didn't have my thing.
Okay. Vivian Hanson made the motion. May I have a second? Was that Linda Garcia?
I'll second.
Linda Garcia made the second. Any questions, any discussions? I did have a question, just so people can know. On page 33 for the consent items on employment, substitute teachers on call as needed. Are substitute teachers for grades pre-K through adult? Or does it also include special ed?
Who we hire, we do ask them. Sorry. They are hired for general substitute work. They can substitute in preschool, K through 12, as well as our adult transition special education program. In order for these individuals to substitute in our special education program, the director goes out and sees them in the setting and gets them approved to be special education substitutes as well. So it is general for all positions.
For all positions. Thank you. Any other questions? None so. We might take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. Consent items have been approved. Now we'll go to action items. Human Resources, page 81 of your book. Establishment of a job description for multimedia technician and establishment of an employment authorization for one position at 8 hours per day, 12 for 12 months. So may I have a motion for staff recommendation, approve the new job description for multimedia technician and establishment of an employment authorization for one position at 8 hours per day for 12 months.
I'll move.
That was Linda Garcia made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
That was Sonia De Leon made the second. Any questions, any comments?
I actually would like to state that I am going to highly take into consideration after Mr. Fruto's presentation, my motion will be based on what I know now about our district and our future perspective. Thank you.
Okay. So any other questions or comments?
We did mention also that how do we communicate with parents? So if we have technology to really disseminate that information, that would be great. I know our website is a little outdated. So I believe we're in the 21st century. We have to prepare not only our students, but have that correct information on our websites.
Any other questions, any comments? I actually think it's real great because our websites are really outdated. We go look for information and some of it says coming soon and some of it just doesn't have it or it's very outdated. So I'm very happy to see this on this agenda. With that said, can we take a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
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 I'll abstain.
So we have 3 ayes and 1 abstain. And board member, one board member stepped away. Okay. With that said, the motion passed. 2.1A passed. I will go to 2.2A, page 87. The presentation of Paramount High Unified School District initial reopening proposal for 2019-2020 collective bargaining agreement with the California School Employee Association Charter 447. May I have a motion for staff recommendation? Receive for public review the district's initial reopener proposal for the 2019-2020 collective bargaining agreement with the California Schools Employees Association Chapter 447.
I'll move.
Sonia De Leon made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
That was Yesenia Cuarenta. Any questions, any comments? So none, may I have a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Linda?
Aye.
Okay, so it's 4-0, one member stepped away. Motion passed, 2.2A. Now we're going to 2.3A, page 89. Public hearing on the Paramount Unified School District initial reopener proposal for the 2019-2020 for the collective bargaining agreement with the California School Association Chapter 447. Staff recommendation, conduct a public hearing regarding the district's 2019 initial reopener proposal for the collective bargaining agreement with the California School Association Chapter 447. May I have a motion to open the hearing?
I'll move.
Sonia De Leon made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll move. I'll second.
That was Vivian Hanson made the second. Any questions, any comments? This is a public hearing, so any questions from the audience? No? I'm sorry. Oh, may I have a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. So now we have a public hearing. Now we have a public hearing. Anybody want to speak or questions or? None so. We're going to close the hearing.
I'll move.
Okay, so as Vivian Hanson made the motion to close the hearing, may I have a second?
I'll second.
That was Linda Garcia?
Yes.
Linda Garcia made the second. Any questions, any comments? No? None so. May I have a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion closed. 2.3A. Now we're going to educational services. 3.1A, public hearing, sufficiency of instructional materials. We have a staff recommendation of conduct a public hearing regarding the sufficiency of instructional materials for the 2019-2020 school year. May I have a motion to open the hearing?
I'll move to open.
Linda Garcia made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
That was Sonia De Leon made the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So it's 5-0. This is a public hearing. Any questions, any comments from the audience? Yes. Yes, come to the podium, please. Yes, 5-0.
For the public hearing, sufficiency of instructional material, does that also include the Chromes that were distributed to the students?
Can you?
So this is validation that every student has a textbook in the core subjects.
Okay, so the Chromes are included.
These are textbooks. These are instructional materials as in reading books, math books, language arts books, social studies books. That's what the legislation requires. It's just textbooks.
Oh, textbooks. Okay. Well, the reason why I brought it up, if it is part of the instructional materials, which I think it is, but I figured I'd ask, are these brought to the district with a grant, or did the district use funds to purchase these Chromes?
Oh.
And my question is, once that is answered, my question is, my understanding is that some parents are having to pay for the insurance.
Thank you. I got it. Mr. Cerda, I'm sorry, but that's a different question. The question was because we're doing textbooks at this moment, not Chromebooks. So that could be asked at a different time because we're talking about instructional books.
I thought the tablets were instructional materials since they're being issued by the district to do homework and do work.
Right. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, so any other questions in the audience? None so. May I have a motion to close the hearing?
I'll move.
That's Vivian Hanson made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Yesenia Cuarenta made the second. All those in favor to close the hearing? Aye. 5-0, motion passed to close the hearing. 3.1A. Now we're going to 3.2A, Resolution 19-11, sufficiency of instructional materials. Staff recommendation, adopt Resolution 19-11, assuring compliance with Educational Code Section 60119 for state funds receivable for instructional materials for the 2019-2020 school year. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
As Sonia De Leon made the motion, may I have a second?
I'll second.
That's Vivian Hanson made the second. Any questions, any comments? None so. All those in favor? Aye. 5-0, motion passed. 3.2A. Now we're going to page 94, 3.3A. Intent to apply for the Inclusive Early Education and Expansion Program Grant for 2019-2020. Staff recommendation, approve the request to apply for the Inclusive Early Education and Expansion Program Grant for the 2019-2020 school year. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
That was Sonia De Leon made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Yesenia Cuarenta made the second. Any questions, any comments? Oh, have to take a vote first.
Just, how long before we'll hear back on this? Do we know? Dr. Clark?
The grant will be submitted by the due date here, which is the middle of October. I think I'm not sure what the turnaround time is, but we can get that information back to you in terms of hearing
Well,
back.
I just wondered if it months or.
I think it might.
Maybe we'll be able to use this like at the second semester or after.
Maybe not that soon.
Maybe
but-
not that quick. Okay.
But yes, we will be hearing from them this year.
Unfortunately, the state doesn't move that
Yeah.
quickly.
No, they sure don't.
We would love that.
It would be nice. And then we're also authorizing that we will, what do I have 33% written down here for? I was taking notes and now I've forgotten what my question was. Or is there a match?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. There's a 33% match in terms of district commitment, and that would be easily met just through our preschool teaching staff that we have.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions, any other comments? None so, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed 5-0, 3.3A. Now we're going to 3.4A, non-public school placement for special education students for 2019-2020 school year. Staff recommendation, approve the placement of special education students in non-public schools as determined by the student's individual educational plan for the 2019-2020 school year. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
That's Linda Garcia made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Yesenia Cuarenta made a second. Any questions, any comments? None so. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0, the vote, motion passed. 3.4A. We're going to 3.5A, attorney fees and settlement agreement for the special education student. Staff recommendation, approve and authorize payment for attorney fees and settlement agreement for a special education student. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
That's Vivian Hanson made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
That was Linda Garcia made the second. Any questions, any comments? None so, all in favor? Aye. Vote 5-0, motion passed. 3.5A. Now we're going to 3.6A, attorney fees and settlement agreement for a special education student. Staff recommendation, approve and authorize payment for attorney fees and settlement agreement for a special education student. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
Linda Garcia made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
That was Vivian Hanson made the second. Any questions, any comments? None so. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Vote was 5-0. Motion passed. 3.6A. Now we're going to 3.7A, attorney fees and settlement agreement for a special education student. Approve and authorize payment for attorney fees and settlement agreement for a special education student. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
That was Yesenia Cuarenta made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
That was Linda Garcia made the second. Any questions, any discussion? None so, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0, motion passed. 3.7A. Now we're going to 3.8A, Carl D. Perkins School allocation fiscal year 2019-2020 for grades 7 through 12. Staff recommendation, accept funds from the Carl D. Perkins Vocational and Technical Education Act for 2019-2020 fiscal year to develop skills for students enrolled in career technical education programs for grades 7 through 12. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
That was Sonia De Leon made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
That is Vivian Hanson made the second. Any questions, any comments? None, so all in favor?
Aye.
5-0, motion passed. 3.8A. Now we're going to 3.9A, Hero by Schoolment Incorporated Agreement. Staff recommendation, approve the agreement with Hero by Schoolment Incorporated to provide services for Buena Vista High School for the 2019-2020 school year. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
That was Linda Garcia made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Who made the second? I heard two.
You can go with Member De Leon.
Okay, Sonia De Leon made the second. Any questions, any discussions? I do have a question, and that is, I noticed that certain middle schools and certain high schools, and now we're adding Buena Vista. Are there any other schools, I mean, district-wide that are participating in this program, or can they participate in this program?
Excuse me. Yes, at this point, Paramount High School West. Hopefully, if you approve, it'll be Buena Vista. And then at the middle school level, it's Alondra and Jackson, I believe. So those are the schools that all came on board last year. And we brought an actual renewal for all of them, with the exception of Buena Vista, because they weren't ready to get started yet. We brought that to you back in, I forget exactly when, but it was late spring, maybe early summer. And we have provided information to all school principals about Hero and its program, and they're all welcome to participate if they choose to. It's not something we've made mandatory.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, any other comments? None, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed 5-0, 3.9A. Now we're going to business services. 4.1A, notices of completion, field service contracts. Staff recommendation, accept as completed the field service contracts as listed above and authorize the superintendent or designee to file the notices for completion and make payments to all contractual parties upon expiration of the lien period and determination that no liens are outstanding. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
That was Linda Garcia made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Vivian Hanson made the second. Any questions, any comments?
I have a question and comment. I noticed now that we're putting like the bid number, which is great. And I wanted to ask, by law, what is the price range or a particular price or cost that by law we would have to bid for?
Yeah,
It's over.
and let's see, Cindy here is at 15 still, right? $15,000 for what they call a public works project. And it's a term that's been around for a long time, meaning that if the project has a purpose of construction or something similar, we have to go out to bid. There are significant exceptions, especially in the area of technology.
So could you explain like more like public works? What does that entail?
Typically construction, reconstruction, modernization, upgrades, modifications, things like that.
So would that be within the school or outside of the school? For instance, would that be in public or city zoning areas, what have you, like city streets, sidewalks? Would that include public works? Or we would have to bid?
Not for us. So that is a question that is applicable right now to a street project we have, because the district doesn't own the streets. You are not required to bid a street project. We are actually being serviced by a partner agency, a city, because they own the street. So if we request, let's say we request the implementation of a lighting system for a crosswalk, which is not uncommon, and the city has a contractor that can do that, they would typically bill the district, and we would agree or disagree. But then they have an obligation under their bid scope to conduct the work. And our understanding in some cases is they have larger asphalt projects, and these projects can become attached to them. So no, for certain projects that we do with cities, you do not have an obligation to bid because you are technically a client of another governmental entity.
So then you would say that the city would make the bidding.
Or make it part of their bid process if they did. So if they have a larger project and this can be incorporated in it, they can do that.
So, and to clarify, that's $15,000 and above, we would, or the city would bid. And for us, if it pertains for the district, then we would have a bid and we would have the bidding number, right?
That would be our rule. To be honest with you, I'm not as familiar with city ordinances or what their rules are. That applies to a school district.
Okay.
So their rules might or might not be the same.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Any other comments? None, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0, motion passed. 4.1A. Now we'll go to 4.2A, Paramount Unified School District Safety and Security Framework. Staff recommendation, adopt the Paramount Unified School District Safety and Security Framework. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
Ms. Sonia De Leon made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
That was Vivian Hansen?
No, Garcia.
Oh, sorry, Linda Garcia, sorry. Any questions, any comments? None, so all in favor?
Aye.
5-0, motion passed. 4.1A. We're going to 4.3A, 2018-2019 unaudited actuals. Staff recommendation, approve the 2018-2019 unaudited actual financial report. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
As Vivian Hansen made the motion, may I have a second?
I'll second.
Linda Garcia made the second. Any questions, any comments? None, so all in favor? Aye. Motion passed 5-0. 4.3A. We're going to 4.4A, Abraham Lincoln School Street Drop-Off Zone Project. Staff recommendation, approve the payment to the City of Paramount for Abraham Lincoln School Drop-Off Project. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
That's Vivian Hansen made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
That's Linda Garcia made the second. Any questions, any comments?
I have questions, or have a question, or various questions. First, is it typical to go ahead and do something such as this project, which I believe is very important for the safety of our students, to do it prior to board approval? Is that something that Paramount Unified School District, is that a custom?
This is a project that we had mentioned that in order for us to achieve this pricing and to be able to do it, we had to attach.
Yes, Mr. Frutos, but the question is, do we typically, as a governing board, go ahead and have the superintendent and the cabinet go ahead with projects without prior board approval? That's my question.
Yeah, that's not uncommon. During the summer, you give us delegated authority to do certain projects, and there are areas where we have to complete a project or, let's say, be prudent in the funding for a project in between board meetings. It is typically a significant discussion within executive cabinet, but it is not uncommon to do certain projects without board approval. In most cases, these are projects that the board would have some knowledge of because either there is a problem that needs to be resolved. So, for example, one of the board members at one of our recent discussions brought up what happens in between board meetings and how come we have some ratifications. Well, if there's a repair that needs to be done because of a condition, the repair will be done. And then we will come back to the board for ratification. And that is, quite frankly, quite common. At least districts do it because sometimes you cannot wait for the repair or the cost of the repair will be significantly expensive. At the beginning of a year, air conditioning is the most common. If a room is not air conditioned and it needs to be repaired, most of the time we will do the work, and by and large the board understands that the work that is being done is necessary for a safety reason or something else. Now, if the work can wait and it doesn't have to be done immediately because there's no safety issue or occupancy issue, it is always at least the function of the current business office to bring it to the board for approval first.
And it's my understanding that the place works or the the consultant, the traffic consultant that did the study back in October, because there was a neighborhood meeting that was held here on July 30th. I know I received the Wednesday report on July 24th, and I was here, and so I heard what happened. So as a new governing board member, I didn't know about this prior approval of having a consultant do a study. I would have liked it that we get a consensus with the community. I know for a fact, because I live on Orizaba, and as a parent whose child attended Lincoln, I know Lincoln is a prime example of parent engagement. So it would have been nice to save thousands of dollars and just use our common knowledge and say, we have a safety issue. Let's ask the community, what do they think? What do they want? Because I know that when this notice was given out to the community to attend this meeting, it was a very short notice. And so within the meeting, and I know because there was a recording of this meeting, and it was stated that we would reconvene to then discuss further and maybe get more input from other community members. But that wasn't the case. It never happened. But you did mention earlier when I asked you, Mr. Frutos, that when it's something that's 15,000 and above, we do a bid. And that anything that belongs to the city, it's not our like area. That would be the city. Is that correct?
Well, what you asked is if for the project that we are discussing, which is the Lincoln construction of the new no parking zone and traffic flow, if we, the district, would have gone out to bid, and my belief is that we wouldn't, because we don't have ownership for the street. That is work that the city would do.
Correct. So that would be the city. So in what part did the city take its responsibility to take care of what belongs to the city? That's what I'm concerned. Because I know in a previous conversation that we had said, a board member had asked, well, here, for example, at Lincoln, when parents come to back to school night, open house, there's lots of parents crossing the street. And as they cross the street, they're concerned that these children or adults could get run over. And so the board member asked, is it possible to put one of our employees to cross the street? And your response was no, because then we would be held liable. It is the city's responsibility. So I'm looking at that angle, and why didn't the city take its responsibility?
So the city, our understanding is that the city had a significant asphalt project in our community, and this project could be attached to it. And although they do provide services for safety for the district, including crossing guards, the idea of a traffic modification typically is done by the district inwards by utilizing our own property, as we've done at Moakler, as we're planning to do at our middle school, at Zamboni, and as we have at Wirtz. In the case of Lincoln, bringing the traffic into our property appeared to not be possible based on the analysis that was done by the traffic engineering. So when they provided that analysis, we approached the city, and the city mentioned at some point, we have an asphalt company in the community, this reconstruction can be done, and that's how the process started. It is slightly different than what we've done at other sites, because we are not bringing the queue into our own property. But to answer your question, I'm not sure that the city would have, without our request for traffic mitigation, necessarily considered a priority for their safety, since what we're trying to do is to improve the quality of service and the flow of traffic and the safety in that area.
It is my understanding that the not to exceed 60,000 for Measure I fund for this new project is to be then paid to the city of Paramount.
They are the ones that have the
Yes.
contract with the asphalt
So
company.
then that
yes.
means we're spending about, or you could say not to exceed 60,000 without bidding.
We are spending.
And we're spending on,
Absolutely.
on
And yes, to clarify,
city
we
property.
don't have to bid for this work. So that is our understanding. So if your question is, were we supposed to bid this project? The answer is no, because we have no ability to do the work on the street.
because again, it belongs to the city.
That is correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? I just have one regarding this issue. When something like this comes up on the agenda, if we can have like on the Wednesday report, well, I know it's not a bid, but whatever the survey or whatever the cities gave the district on regards to what they're doing and how much it's going to cost. That way we can at least know ahead of time.
And I had a comment. This survey that you're talking about, this was done with traffic folks. You hired a company that went out and looked at, this was done during last year, I believe,
We did.
to look at all the traffic patterns at all of our schools because we were having issues. So we approved that.
Right.
And this is part of that. And so you're just following through on what the recommendation was. And we talked about it at ad hoc a few times, and the city offered to piggyback on their bid, and so it would cost us less money. And like you say, we have no control over what happens on the street. But because of safety for children, this was one of the biggest things that was identified by the consultant, the traffic consultant.
And what I'll be happy to do is to send to the board again the traffic presentation and the analysis that PlaceWorks did.
That would be helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and I understand it's really important. There's no question about it. Students are first. That's why I like the fact that Board Member Gomez asked for blinking lights, because typically on Orizaba, people who are driving usually just pass and don't even stop. So then I know it would be paying the city of Paramount. Did they do themselves the construction, or who did, and how can we, because if you ask me and I asked a lot of constituents, there we go again, community members, okay, people, parents have asked me, well, it's a poorly done job. You could still see the paint where the parking spaces were for the cars. And the city also did not listen to the community when they came to this meeting as to, because a traffic consultant did do the study from 7 to 3, and I did state, well, there are people that come home after 3 o'clock, like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and they need a parking space. So now there is no parking space, and they're upset. So it would have been nicer to have either when we're going to do something or a project that we do it far in advance. So we let the community have a say, as this should be a democratic process. So that's all I have to say.
Carmen, you were at the meeting, and so refresh my memory. How many parking spaces were we going to lose by putting in that drop-off zone? Do you remember? Did you say you were at the meeting?
No.
You did not go. I'm sorry. I thought you reported that you did.
No.
So do you remember how many parking spaces were lost?
I'm looking at, I'm going to have to get back to you on the exact number.
Was it like 8? Does anybody
Remember,
know?
Cindy? No.
I don't recall.
Like 8 or 9 or something?
It was more
Somewhere
than
in
that.
that?
It was more than that. What I'm finding is the initial assessment was done in 2017, and there were several recommendations. And then we had another report, and I'll find them and resend them to the board. But we had sent a report in 2018, and the Lincoln drop-off project was actually brought back in July for the presentation of a potential community meeting. So I'll put all that together and send it to the board. All the
Thank
steps.
you. So I just have one question piggyback off of Board Member De Leon. If it's a poorly job, who goes out and tells the city, you guys have to, erase the lines still? If the lines are, you can still see the parking lines and stuff like, who's the one who inspects it? Or who's the one who's responsible?
So that would be the district. We are the entity that requested some of this work. What we will be doing is, as we close out the project, we do this with every project, we ask our traffic engineer one more time to make sure that the work that was done complied with our request prior to completing the project. That's commonly done, and when we resurface our own parking lots, every once in a while, as you know, a car will drive through before it's completely dry, and we have to do a little bit of redo. So we will be doing that shortly.
Okay, thank you.
I would just like to say thank you to the city for all it does for our schools.
Any other questions, any comments? None so, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I vote no, and for the record, children's safety is first, but I don't agree with the process.
Okay. So it's 4-1, motion passed, 4.4A. Now we're going to 4.5A, acceptance of Port of Long Beach Community Grants Programs Award. Staff recommendation, accept the grant from the Port of Long Beach Community Grant Program in the amount of $352,475. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
That's Vivian Hanson made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Elena Garcia made the second. Any questions, any comments? None so.
Oh, I have a
sorry.
question.
Uh-huh.
For the Gaines Elementary School, because we've already done the MERV 16s and part of the pilot program, what happens with those funds? Do we have an answer?
We do. So one of the goals of the grant is to pay for both retrofit and filtering. What we're trying to see is if within the grant they can compensate for the retrofitting that the district has already done, since it was paid with district funds. If not, our goal would be to ask that it becomes distributive to the filter replacement at multiple locations so that it can extend the filter replacement.
Okay, very good.
Either way, it'll be the use of dollars the same.
So we're going to ask them to kind of reimburse us if it's possible for the work that we've already done?
And this is fully a reimbursable project. We have to do the work, come to you to get it approved, pay for it, and request reimbursement. So the whole process is reimbursable.
Oh, that's pretty scary.
A lot of grants are that way. Yeah.
From the Port of Long Beach,
From the Port of Long Beach.
we're going to have to wait for reimbursement.
That's the way the grant is written.
I didn't realize that. There's not a thing I can do about it now. Wow. Can we do one school at a time and then get reimbursed? It makes me nervous.
There is a time limit for when the work needs
Okay.
to be completed. And
Okay.
up until now, their allocation appears to be fundable, but it is something that we can ask how quickly can the funds be reimbursed once the work is done.
Okay, thank you.
And when are we starting this work?
Right now, what we're trying to, once the board approves this, we start working with our engineers to see how the schedule can be done. In some cases, we cannot have occupancy in the rooms, so they'll create a schedule of construction.
Okay. And then we will be provided that schedule so we can
We
know
can,
it?
absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, any other comments?
I just have a comment. I think it's vitally important. It's showing that the Port of Long Beach recognizes that these schools are impacted by our air pollution and that it's vital that we move forward and worry about getting refunded later.
Any other comments, any other questions? None so, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed 5-0, 4.5A. Now we're going to 4.6A, Resolution 19-12, Workmen's Compensation Coverage for Volunteer Personnel. Staff recommendation, adopt Resolution 19-12, Workmen's Compensation Coverage for Volunteer Personnel. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
Board Member De Leon made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Board Member Hanson made the second. Any questions, any comments?
I had a question, and this is for Ruben, if it's okay. The fiscal impact, it says the program costs are designed to be cost neutral, but medical and related costs paid from insurance funds. Is that our H&W funds? Is that what we're talking about? I meant to call you ahead of time.
No, this is not coming out of, sorry, Ms. Hanson, thank you for the question. This is not coming out of our health and welfare. This is strictly workers' compensation, and the goal is to use any type of savings from our property and liability rates to pay for this. The explanation that we sent you in the Wednesday packet is that at this point, volunteers in our district are not covered when they are technically part of the district. So an example is if a volunteer gets injured, their only recourse is to sue the district. Under workers' compensation, they are limited to the cost of medical care. Under liability, there is no limit. So this provides a significant amount of protection to the district over time, especially as we have been increasing the number of volunteers we have. We are about to do that as we have additional drivers, coaches, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a level of protection that we believe will be beneficial to the district because it reduces large losses.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, comments? None so, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed 5-0. 4.6A. Now we're going to 4.7A, Resolution 19-13, establishing the 2019-2020 Gamma Appropriation Limit. Staff recommendation, adopt Resolution 19-13, establishing the 2019-2020 Gamma Appropriation Limited to $98,962,157.02 as calculated by the state formula. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
Board Member Hanson made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Board Member Cuarenta made the second. Any questions, any comments? None so, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed 5-0. 4.7A. Now we're going to 4.8A, board approval for the adoption of the resolution of implement term limits in the next election. Staff recommendation, the Board of Education reviewed and vote on the resolution for implementation of term limits. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
Sonia De Leon made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Yesenia Cuarenta made the second. Any questions, any comments?
I have a comment. As a educational institute, I believe that we should be leaders in democracy. And if we decide to vote yes and show the leadership and show our students how democracy works and really understand that the constituents, again, sorry, community, it makes you happy, whatever, they're the ones who have, on a survey, has said with a great percent that they want term limits. That doesn't stipulate that once it goes and it passes, that people could then vote and it might not pass, it might pass, whether we have term limits or not. But I believe that as a governing board who works on working with students and shows democracy, that we should move forward.
I actually, sorry, President Gomez, I would actually, I appreciate Board Member De Leon speaking up. I would also like to state that the choice I make is going to be based on two things. One, we're in the middle of contract negotiations. Two, declining enrollment, that's going to be a big issue. I understand democracy, I believe in it, but I also have to think about the student in the classroom and the teacher that could possibly get a raise. Or may not because of this.
Any other comments, any other questions? None so, all in favor?
No.
Aye.
Okay, so let me go one by one. Sorry. Board Member Garcia?
No.
Okay. Board Member De Leon?
Yes.
Board Member Hanson?
No.
Board Member Cuarenta?
Abstain.
Abstain. And Board Member, and President Gomez, yes. So it's 2 yes, 2 no, and 1 abstain. Okay? So
We
with
need a
that,
vote.
Oh, we need a vote?
We need a vote. I mean, we need to break this. We've talked about this for months. Either we're for it or we're against it. Come on, guys, let's step up here. Let's show democracy in action.
Okay, no.
okay? So 3 no's, 1 yes. So with that, 4.A did not pass, so there's no reason why we should do 4.9A. With that, I just want to say something to my constituents, which are the residents who vote, not the students, not the, well, there is students that are 18 that also vote. For all my constituents who are here and watching on the internet via YouTube, I want to say that I listened to your concerns regarding term limits and brought this issue up for the board's consideration. However, the majority of the board has decided to not move forward with term limits. I will continue to listen to your issues and concerns and continue to make them a top priority of mine. I look forward to reintroducing this item in late 2020. Thank you.
Madam President, I'd like to read my no response then, please.
Sure.
As a general rule, I've never been in favor of term limits. My experience in the past has been working with legislators in Sacramento when they are termed out after 2 or 4 years, making it difficult to build long-term relationships with those making decisions that affect our district. And with the budget constraints we're dealing with, declining enrollment, contract negotiations, additional funds being spent on initiatives that were not directly related to students that are new, pension obligations make it difficult to vote to spend at least $60,000. The other option is for a committee to be formed to gather the signatures required to have this item placed on the 2020 ballot. So I cannot support this resolution. That's why I voted no.
Could I have a few words?
Yes, you may.
To my gente, to my people out there, 2020 is around the corner. Do not fear. We're here to support you in every way possible. You saw democracy, and this is how it works. Unfortunately, it didn't pass. That doesn't mean that it won't pass sooner or later. I do have to admire, though, that being on the board, I learned that our board policies and bylaws were 30 years outdated. So it's good to have new people on the board to look at what are we not in compliance with, because that's law. And so we're changing those things. So good thing, and always a good thing, is that someone new comes in. Yes, I believe there should be longer terms, not as long, but long enough so where the board members can make a difference, because we don't want turnover. I don't believe in 2 terms. 3 terms would be great, because our population, our people in California School Boards Association has told us, we do not know what the 21st students are going to be working. We can't even imagine the jobs that they have. So I am not as techie as someone who is younger. So I would need to step away as much as I would want to stay, to get new people, to get new ideas, because the younger generation has always something to offer. There's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely not. When new teachers come and they practice their teaching, we could see that they come with better ideas. That doesn't mean that I disqualify a teacher that's tenured, because we need just a mesh of people with experience and people that are new, but not someone that has been for a very, very long time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll go to conference items. These items are presented in for advanced planning and to assist the board in establishing further agenda items. The board may, however, take action of the following: General Services, 1.1-CF, Revised Board Policy 3510, Maintenance and Operations of District Facilities. Accept the first reading of proposed revised Board Policy 3510, Maintenance and Operations of District Facilities.
Can I ask a question before you go? As I was looking at this, I couldn't quite understand why that Board Policy 3510, which was originally Maintenance and Operation of District Facilities, now is being called Green School Operations when it has to do with straws.
Because we're turning green, because we're going green, right?
You know what? Now never mind.
We're going
I don't
green.
have the question. I understand why you
Right.
did that.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry.
And
I see
This
it.
will just come before the board as an action item at
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
This will come before the board as an action item at the next board meeting.
for approval if the board chooses to approve.
So now announcements. Next board study session, Monday, September 16, 2019 at 5:30, and regular meeting Monday, October 14, 2019, 6 p.m., boardroom of the district. Staff and employee comment per Government Code 54957 prior to the close of session as necessary. Staff or employee comments are taken per Government Code 54957. None?
I have a comment.
Yes.
I just want to apologize for the last meeting that we had for the outburst that happened, especially to the new employees that we were introducing with their families. It was an embarrassment, and I just want to apologize for that.
President Gomez, may I add something?
Yes.
I just want to say that when we're up here and things get a little out of hand, I want us to ask ourselves, how is what we're doing helping student outcomes? And if it's not, then why are we doing it? Thank you.
Any others?
You're going to send us some new dates for goal setting? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, I have to work with the
Okay.
I will need to work with the facilitators first to check their availability.
Right. So we're closed session at 8:50 p.m. You sign something for you? Uh-huh.